Welcome back. It's May, and that usually means that, at least in America, that TV shows are having their season or series finale. Now, some shows, they are gone before their time. For whatever reason, they just don't catch on, even though they're good. Then they have shows that leave just at the right time, and you look back years later, man, that was a really good show, and then you want to buy the DVDs. And then there are shows that they stick around too long. You got to be 1, 2, or even more seasons than that. That, in layman's terms, is when you jump the shark. For those of you who don't know what that means, it basically means when a show starts to decline in quality and sometimes even starts to suck. So I'm going to count down my top 10 right here. This is going to be part 1. So also, just like my movies list, I actually had to have watched this show. And I have to have watched them regularly. Not just, I saw an episode and then I stopped because I didn't like it and then years later I found out that it jumped the shark. No. I actually had to have watched it regularly and then I just no, enough. So here we go. Number 10 on my list is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 80s and 90s cartoon series. It's the only one I ever watched, and you know, I was a big fan of the Turtles. My best friend and I, we used to play the NES games 2 and 3. Forget the first one, that one sucks. But we also, my brothers and I used to pretend that we were the Ninja Turtles, and each of us would be one of the Turtles based on who we liked the most and who we kind of connected to the most. And I was Raphael. My other brothers were the other 3 Turtles. I'm not going to go into who was who. But at some point, it was sometime after 1990, because 89-90 was when Turtles really hit its peak, and he had the longest season, season 3. He also had the TMNT movie that came out in 1990, which is still a decent movie, still good. But then, sometime afterwards, first they took away Michelangelo's nunchucks and gave him a grappling hook. Then they kind of upped the craziness, but to too high of a degree at times. It started being a little too slapsticky for its own good, and it wasn't as good as it once was. There wasn't enough seriousness to balance out the comedic aspects of it. Not to mention, once the second movie was good, but then not as good as the second one, and then the third one, which just sucked. A lot of people just, boom, no more Ninja Turtles. And I left sometime around season 5 or 6. And the show ran 10 seasons apparently. I didn't even know this until a couple years ago. But I just stopped liking it, even though I was a big fan. And it just happens. You just get older, I guess. So number 9 on my list is Law and Order SVU. I could have put all of these different procedural cop shows on this list and could probably take it up the top 10, or at least the bottom 5. But I chose SVU because it was my favorite of the procedural cop shows, mainly because it had Ice-T in it, and now I enjoy Ice-T as an actor. He's good. So the thing that SVU and all these procedural cop shows, where it's all the same. There's no variation, and the cops are always super good, and the people they're trying to catch are just the scum of the earth. There's no really gray area here, even though there are episodes where the police kind of screw things up and ruin someone's life. No, that doesn't happen. That didn't happen. That's just pushed aside and people don't talk about it. And after a while, even though there were some good episodes, you gotta say that they kind of jumped the shark, especially when Christopher Maloney, I think that's his name, sorry if I screwed that up, he left, and then they brought somebody else in, and they brought in Anthony Anderson, who he's funny and he does he's not a good actor, but he came at the wrong time to try to do so much, and it was just, no, I'm done. It was just too much. Especially since I was watching a bunch of other procedural cop shows, and it just got to be, stop, enough. So number 8 on my list is Californication. I feel kind of bad talking about this one because I was a fan. I was a big fan of this show. My brother and I, we used to. He got me into it when I used to tell him about shows that I liked as well. He told me about Californication, and then I started watching it during season 3, and I got hooked. I thought it was hilarious. Hank Moody was funny, kind of an anti-hero in a sense, but he was kind of relatable, but kind of a dick. But I liked it. I went back and actually watched season 1 and 2 afterwards, just to catch up. And then season 4 came, and it was really good. I would say it was great, and it ended in a way that made you feel like, oh, this could be a series finale. This could have ended it, and that was the perfect moment to end it. My brother and I kind of had a little discussion of whether or not season 5 should have happened. I have to say I am glad season 5 happened because I enjoyed it. Samurai Apocalypse, even though he wasn't as good as Eddie Nero, he was very funny, very good. RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan was just so fun to watch. He was hilarious. He had good comedic ability, but also good character. He knew how to get the audience to like him, and I liked his character. Not as good as Eddie Nero because Rob Lowe was just hilarious as Eddie Nero, but a good character. And it could have ended at season 5 if they hadn't done the whole cliffhanger ending. If they had just not had that, I think you could have ended at 5. 6 was not that good, and 7 kind of sucked. I'm not going to get into what happened in those 2 seasons, but it was just a shame because it had such a great moment to end on, but then it kind of just sank, and that's kind of sucks. So, number 7 on my list is The Big Bang Theory. This show is still going on right now, but it's jumped a shark. The original premise has changed, which I'm glad it did change, but it kind of, I don't know, even though I never watched the show, it kind of reminds me, at least from the commercials, of Friends. Just, a group of people hanging out, and we don't see enough, I think, of the guys doing the work. And also, now that Penny and Leonard have actually gotten married, it does put a lot of the will they, won't they out the window, which you got to end at some point. But once you end it, I think the show should end. But this past season, I think it just ended. It wasn't as good as like season 5, season 6. I mean, it just can't reach the level it once was, and I believe next season may be the last, and I think it should be the last. It just let it end. It's run its course, I think. So. This is a Chuck Lorre show, and speaking of Chuck Lorre, number 6 on my list is another Chuck Lorre show, 2.5 Men. Now, this show, my brothers and I, again, we watched it, and we thought season 3 was hilarious, and we enjoyed the first 4 seasons, and then sometime, I think around season 4 was also when Alan had his second divorce, and it went right back to just him being a leech, and it was just the same jokes over and over again. And after a while, it was kind of like the opposite of Big Bang Theory in the sense that Big Bang Theory started one way and it changed so drastically that it was almost unrecognizable from what it was before. Whereas 2.5 Men just stayed exactly the same and there was no character growth. So you need to have that balance between the two extremes. And especially with Charlie Sheen's whole personal problems, which I'm not going to get into, I don't care. It kind of did sink the series, especially when they tried to bring in Ashton Kutcher. I watched the first couple episodes, even though I hadn't really watched it before. But he was trying to be Kelso in the first few episodes. It's like, nope, out. Glad I stopped watching this. So far that's my bottom 5 in my top 10 list. The second half will probably be out maybe Sunday, hopefully, maybe Monday at the latest. Until then, I just wanted to ask you right now, what are shows that are going on right now that you think have already jumped the shark? That's my question to you right now. What shows right now that are still going on have already jumped the shark? Until my next video, take care.